Well, well, well. I don't know why I always like to do the well, well, well. Like, I've been expecting you. How's my focus on my eyeballs? May have to invest in one of those autofocus cameras, you know? So, numbers are down with female viewers. So I've left one of my buttons unbuttoned. No, it's true, though. When you look at the numbers of this topic, and I don't know whether it's any of my other nerdist pursuits, it's always like 80-20. It seems like 80% men, 20% women are into this. So I think that's funny. I'm like, what if I was an advertiser? What would I have to do? So we have a different look today. I have a different hat. And I don't have my curly mustache. Ladies, what do you think? I know, it's like, what kind of ladies? I need grandmas at my age. To be fair, I am going to be doing Santa Claus again this year. And it was weird doing Santa Claus last year because I had to keep telling people that elves are real. Let's check our chat, see if anybody's joined us yet. Nobody yet on the chat. Checking my mic again. Testing, testing. We are in a real world universe. I'm using Restream and OBS, courtesy of my gal in the chair, Cyberlinks. Yeah. Anybody ever want to talk any sort of fandom stuff too? Strange New Worlds just aired another episode this week, so that was fun. I don't know if anybody's watching that. Did a little poll, and actually on my Twitter page, it seems like more people are interested in the archaeology than the biology. Now, of course, I'd get into the biology because I want everyone to believe the archaeological finds. Oh, my phone's blowing up. Sometimes I have a friend who purposely calls me during this time. So let's see. No, nothing on the comm device there. Comm device. So what are we talking about today? Tridactyls, I'm guessing. That's all we talk about here, right? Because I'm coping. I'm coping with the truth. What are we going to talk about? Well, one of the titles of the show is called Ears and Rears. Tridactyls. Bah. So what can we look at to get going to ears and rears? Well, I do have this picture on the back burner here. All right. Let's go ahead and look at that with a little bit of music. What say thee? What if I just want to go to full screen attack? And some music, please, maestro. Take a look at this. This is the skull of Alberto. Although if I had to give him a name, I would think of Hephaestus, because he seems to be the lame god with a metal implant in his hip. But after looking at his ear, maybe the name Vulcan would be better than Hephaestus. What do you think of that? Tridactyls, we are at tridactyls.com, of course, at Tridactyls. So you can find us on various social media, including YouTube, Reddit, Facebook, and TikTok. Although we are not live on TikTok because TikTok, since its recent takeover, has been less keen on free speech. All right, let's take a look at Alberto. We are looking down at the dorsal view, the top of Alberto's head. That big mass in the center is some brain there. Brains. What are we looking at? No, we got the pyramidal bone. I'm not sure if it was Miles who first made note of that or if it was Galecki, actually, because Miles bases a lot of his stuff on Galecki, which might be his last name. You know how the Russians invert names? Just another confusing thing in all of this. You know, there's so much global impact on this study and involvement. You know, it's found in a Latin American country. It's a global phenomenon. I find evidence in Chinese culture. So I think Alberto suffered some trauma, possibly on the left side of his head, because it doesn't make sense why his interior pyramidal bone, which is up here, if you are watching, that is the right side pyramidal bone, or a tympanoperiodic complex, which I suggest is closely related to a cetacean or whale or dolphin. Now over here, you can see that it's been moved up and to the left. Up and to the left. And let's get a better look at that on some of our slides, shall we? We shall. Help, I must escape. And let's hit the right button, and I don't see it. I had a bunch of pictures lined up, and for some reason I don't see them there. Wow, that's strange. We were going to go look at our slideshow. That's what we're looking at. Hold on. I'm in control. I'm flying this ship. And I think you guys would like to see me, because I'm hoping to bring a grandfatherly, peaceful presence to your life. All right, what do we got here? We got Artemis. Boy, she is prognathous as all heck, isn't she? And Alberto is very flat-faced. Huh. Artemis has a more pronounced supraorbital arch. Alberto actually probably is an older specimen. Another name for Alberto I suggested is Hephaestus or Vulcan. Could be Kronos, or what's another name they give? Kronos is a good one. And when I'm giving these names, what I'm suggesting is humanity's cosmology is based on actual individuals, and I suggest that these individuals are right here. So these are not just, you know, random roadkill. This is individuals. So we have Artemis with a prognathic look. She clearly must have more primate in her, as opposed to Alberto, who seems to have a flatter face, more like the so-called xenomorphs, I'll call them, the basal type genus, right? Our Suye, our type S's, these are all different names. Eventually we'll all agree to the same name, but if you look, there's probably, 4 different species names out there. I call them Naga Tridactyls. My name isn't really rooted in any sort of ego fulfillment. It's just, this is what I suggest they are. And the Nagas are the most prominent mythology. Oh, look at that. I got a little line over there. Don't you hate that? Ugh. Oh, I hate running a show by myself. Anyway, we're not even really here for that prognathism. We're here to look at this auditory complex that was first identified, to my knowledge. Miles made note of it here in Alberto. Now, I have to let you know, these two, if you haven't figured it out, this is an exterior image of Alberto. But this is an interior scan of Artemis. So we're actually looking at, if I'm not mistaken, oh, I also see the rest of the bone up there. See, I need to include that in the pictures. No wonder I'm getting confused. It looks like the parietal bone is up top. Oh, and look at that. See? I don't know. We'll look at some of the diagrams. Very confusing stuff. I mean, if you wanted some confusing stuff, I don't think there could be much more confusing stuff than the ear bones of a cetacean. This is one of these things, I'm not sure why I knew it. Well, I mean, I have an idea. When Miles first mentioned the pyramidal bone, I kind of knew what it was already. I'd already suggested it's probably communication. This might be how they're getting some of their sound across. And as well as intake of sound underwater, because it reminded me, if I'm not mistaken, I learned this lesson from a friend of mine. I used to share beers with a marine biologist who I am trying to get in touch with. I want him to look at this whole process here, and I'm looking at it a little differently right now because I'm noticing another bone above the ear bone. But we're going to see if this really is a cetacean or whale-like process. But what happened to Alberto? This is an interior structure. In fact, that is like a sagittal kind of medial cut of his ear right there, which you can see in Artemis. And let's go through another one. And in other, whoa, hey, my mouse is very sensitive. I say that's all the gross. So here we have two more individuals. We have Paul and we have Josephina, which from this angle, that's probably just the way Josephina's positioned. She doesn't look quite as prognathic in the jaw. So here we are. Once again, we are looking at ear bones, and I have a different perspective of this right now. So it's, again, very complicated, certainly nowhere in my wheelhouse at all. I know from a marine biologist what a pyramidal bone in a whale does. So that's what we're guessing, that this is what we're looking at. And again, that's this structure here. And I'm starting to look at it a little different. Maybe it's just this angle. Maybe that's what it is. It's really provided the full length of this. Okay, so a close-up of Alberto, left's head. And I'd always suspected he had been injured. I always did. And I remember Miles talking about the pyramidal bone, but it didn't really gel with me that it's on the side of his head. So once again, here's a very similar scan. You can see, even not as clear as the one we opened with, but this pyramidal bone, are also called again, a tympano-periodic complex, which could be used for echolocation and communication. This might be where some of their clicks might be coming from, if they were to hypothetically click. And then it looks like, again, it's been moved and up here. And I don't know if that's an injury or not. It might just be part of the image. Not my specialty. So this is, actually, I don't know what this species is. It's Echovenator sandersi. Maybe this is something we could do in real time here. So real quick, let's see what this thing is. I think it's fun sometimes to do stuff in real time. Maybe you get bored with it. Maybe if you're watching it and recording, it doesn't matter. So yeah, groovy looking critter. Let's whoa. Like was just talking about it, and then here it is. There you go, put it right next to this picture here. Oops. Or not. All right, so that's the critter in question. And this is a diagram of this animal's bone, which I'm trying to do my best to compare to the tridactyl bone. And again, it is difficult, but I'm not sure if this helps. It'll require continuous study. Hopefully I get in touch with the marine biologist and he can just take a look at it. You know, I did send, of course, some images of the parietal pineal gland, the third eye, and that I sent to a paleontologist who was amazed because the structure of the skull suggested primate, yet here was this dual gland, theoretically dual photoreceptor glands. All right, so I think that's good for now. That's the ear. We're going to keep working on that. Again, if we have more people involved, it would be better, but I do most of this by myself. There isn't always I sometimes get encouraging words from people. Thank you. Those you guys are sharing. Hey, we do have some chats out there. I haven't even been watching this. Let's take a look at our chats, shall we? So we got Gears checking in. We got Skywatch checking in. Let's see. Gears is saying, are those the 24 elders mentioned in the Bible? It reminds me of Indiana Jones, the Crystal Skull ending. Not sure what you're referring to on that one, buddy. Wolf checking in. Skywatch asking about telepathy, which, you know, who knows what a whole extra gland can do for you. Let's see here. My way off the mark. Wolf checking in again. Okay, we got Wolf. We got awesome. Sorry, that looks like an injury for sure. Nothing comes to mind yet. All right, cool. So what are we talking about now? We're getting into the that was our ears discussion. So again, in my humble amateur assessment, those ear bones look like something you would find in a cetacean. That's my best analogy for that. When I hear pyramidal bones, that's the only thing I can think of. I'm sure someone else might have some other great things. So what do we got here? Kind of blocking the image here. So let me go ahead and switch to TV here. Got 3 monitors working to bring you this show. I'm trying to do my slides now in cinematic mode. Isn't that cool? But a little hard to read the words, perhaps, for you guys. That blue haze doesn't help. So, shouldn't be surprised to many of you. I'm suggesting that these things are amphibians. And by suggesting these are amphibians, I was quite surprised to see what I suggest is frog butt. So the researchers had identified fused lower vertebrae. I suggest that fused lower vertebra is actually what's called an urostyle. And I first noticed it on Louisa, one of the smaller ones, the less human, the less primate versions, as opposed to what we're looking at here, which is Maria, which is said to be 30% human, 3% other primate. So that's why I sometimes just say 33% primate to 3% primate. Maybe it doesn't matter what kind of primate it is at the end of the day. And there's a great little picture there of an actual frog urostyle. Yeah, we got frog butt here. It's very interesting. So yeah, the first clue was the suspicion that they do not have lungs. Actually, the first clue, to be honest, is what? Is the 3 fingers, right? Because 3 fingers is an amphibian trait that you can find today. You can find that in salamanders and newts and frogs, right? Of course, culturally now, that 3 fingers and a serpentine form of a front limb development of like an axolotl larval form, this became a big part of human symbolism, which we're supposed to be talking about human symbolism in a little bit, aren't we? So right now, again, we're looking at frog butt. What else do we have on frog butt? Do we have anything else on frog butt? We might not. That might be the last. Well, what else can we say about frog butt? Maybe there isn't anything else to say about frog butt. So we should start to segue into the culture. We got Lauren Strauss showing up and Wolf. Got a bunch of people showing up. That's great. We're going to have to see who's around towards the end there. We will be giving away a Josephina skull. Oh, this is one of those poopy ones. It's a little too soft for my liking. Yeah, I'm making these things, so getting the right mixture down is not really. I'm not really a model maker, but this one's got like a bubble on his nose. That's not good either, right? So anyway, I will hopefully get to you a Josephina skull. Now, I'm understanding that this might be actually smaller than I've heard people say it's bigger. People say it's smaller, but nonetheless, it makes a nice Nice ornament, keeps you a part of the whole phenomenon, right? Awesome. Here we got a big comment come in. This is one of the biggest. A book available on Internet Archive for free called "A Universal History from the Earliest Account to the Present," compiled by the original authors. Massive but informative. Okay. Well, let's talk about some of our cultural things we wanted to discuss today. And last week, if you were here, we talked about some of the pig dragons. And it was the pig dragons that guided me when searching through the scans of Artemis's eggs, where I spotted the larval forms. I call them larval forms to make it clear that I don't believe these are two-armed, two-legged beings. They're two arms, but I think the lower half is undeveloped and part of a metamorphosis. So I wanted to talk about, probably again, for some of you, is the Ruiceptors. So let's take a look at those if we could. Ruiceptor. Well, let's just talk about the Ruiceptors while I pull one up here. So the Ruiceptors are super interesting in that, in my opinion, they are another example of steganography. So what is steganography? That is concealing information in art. And if you're following some of my posts, you'll see that I think some of it's very demonstrable that yes, we have been seemingly concealing information of perhaps these beings. I mean, some of it's obvious, right? If you look at the Paracas fabrics and the Paracas ceramics, it's, do they know if they're adults or children? Okay, well, that's a great question. And by the way, we do have the other scans up if, for example, we wanted to look at. So there are what appears to be hybrid children. And there is also what appears to be non-human, mature enough to give birth. But these things may actually be born pregnant. So, and their traits of this tubular heart and this cranium to body connection, there's no separation. That is sort of a neotenic or youthful juvenile trait, but it's also, I think, a mature cephalopod trait. So again, they kind of stride that weirdness, that weird vertebrate invertebrate weird time in our history, apparently. So we do have the scans up today, and we do have a question. Let's go ahead and use that. And so this is an example of a hybrid child. And before anyone gets nervous that we're showing, children here, this is a non-human, to be clear. It is, if anything, maybe it's, well, let's think. If Maria is 33% human, is this maybe like, I don't know, is this 50% human? Perhaps, maybe the little ones are even more, more human than human. So this is Sebastian we're looking at. And there's probably some better images of Sebastian, but we're just sort of jumping in here to see what we can see. So anyway, we are, let's stay back on track. That was a question about children. So yeah. So we're talking about Ruiceptors, and let me just pull up at least one Ruiceptor for us to look at, because I don't know. I think I closed the pictures by accidentally on the Ruiceptors. Oh, this is a good one. Okay, check that out. So recently, a Ruiceptor just went for several $1 million. It was sold for. It was white jade. So These things have been around since first, we'll say 200 BC. So they were theorized by some to be back scratchers. Okay. I mean, that's seriously some Occam spork happening there. You know, back scratchers don't get included in paintings and statues. That's what we were going to see too. Oh, yeah. I do have a cool video for us to watch. Oh, bloody hell. An ad. Somebody wants me to invest in oil, huh? Oh, now we've got Naga music. Well, that did not work out in my favor. However that was going down. Okay, so we're talking about the Rui scepter, which means as you wish. Picture with rulers compared as a, and I want to watch this guy's whole video. Really, we're just here for the statue. So this statue here of Guanyin, a goddess, is pictured with a Rui scepter. Boy, here we go. There's one good image there. We'll have to stick with this image, I think. Okay, we're just going to stick with this image. Notice how she is holding the Rui scepter. Very personified, right? It's so again, that's not how you hold a back scratcher. And this was one of the things, coincidentally, I saw with our cornucopia. The cornucopia is not what we think it is. Okay. Oh. There you go. Okay, so you should be ideally seeing a cornucopia, a statue, a goddess. I believe it's Hera. Oh, there we go. What's this say? The Phoenix and 138 plus the Nagas. Ooh, I don't know what that means, but interesting enough. And if you notice on the side there, there is another goddess, a seated goddess, holding the precursor to these cornucopias. And I think we have some more images here. Going back in time, you can see that this cornucopia, which, by the way, the mythology it's related to is the horn that fed Zeus. So it fed Zeus knowledge. And horn is likely a metaphor, much like the Ganesh metaphor, where Ganesh, we all know Ganesh has this elephant head, but there are theories that it's not a god with an elephant head, but a god whose body is somewhat shaped like an elephant head. So a trunk. And we've noted graphemes, Chinese graphemes of irregular, what looks like irregular growth in a being, where they have two legs growing differently, which brings us back to specimen number 4, which looks like the hip was cut off and that the one leg grew back more robust than the other. Why would these things be able to regenerate? Well, they're amphibians, right? So that makes sense. So right now, I'm just saying this is a cornucopia you're looking at. Your cornucopia that you see for Thanksgiving. But as we go back in time, it becomes more and more serpentine. So much so that it just seems to show this Harpocrates god standing with the serpent. And of course, the cornucopia is connected to that Mandela effect. And yes, I always think of that and think, oh, maybe there is something to the Mandela effect, because who else would not want to erase this memory? But then these, so we're getting a little conspiratorial. But let's pull it back into anthropology. So in anthropology, we know that the priest kings and the shaman play the intermediary between mortal, everyday people and the gods. Now, looking back, is we know, if we can say that the gods had a physical presence, then perhaps these priest kings were some of our first hybrids. Perhaps that in the past, these hybrids or even humans may have even carried or wore these beings. And if the being was on your side as a human, then perhaps like Solomon with a ring, you could wield the jinn. So that was one of the things I noticed about the cornucopia was the holding of this serpentine being like it was a child. All right. Okay. So we got someone sharing a red alien face, right? A red tridactyl face. Those of you that are following the constant companion theory, at the base of our theory is that our heart symbol is the face of the tridactyls. They have a very distinct face. And if you also are following our theory culturally, you'll see that many cultures associate these beings with the mother goddess. So, awesome. What is going on out there? So, we went over some things today. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Well, I would like to give away a Tridactyl head today. So that does take a little bit of time to do. So if you are here, I'm going to put up a list of numbers for those of you who want to take part and win a Tridactyl head. A model, really, right? All right. Here we go. All right. Yeah, the mother goddess. Here we go. Let's share this. The mother goddess goes by a lot of different names. In China, she's she or she, and the sh ends up being a very popular mother goddess sound. Wolf is in for a 21. I'm not super familiar with telepathy, but there's a good chance that they had other natural ways of communicating, and I don't know if that's something that is something beyond material touch or not. So, not sure. We got a Jared coming in for 79. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Be sure to follow us at TikTok for some fun little short videos. Reddit, if you want to interact. I do ask everybody to be respectful. I say it's my classroom, it's my nightclub. And either way, I'll kick you out if I don't like you. Arr. That's old man. That's what happens to the beard. It makes you cranky. I'm just kidding. Anybody else want to throw in a number to win this week? Otherwise, or any other questions about the third eye pineal gland or the Euro-style evidence of losing a tail? That means mermaids were real. That's what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting mermaids are real and they weren't that story of manatees, yada, yada, yada. I don't think that's it. Anybody else want to throw in a number while you're here? An extra number, those of you that have joined us tonight. Sky? Yeah, thanks. And if anybody has a story they ever want to share, you're welcome to come on. We can share a story. I don't mind. If you just want to do an audio, that's fine too. We can do an audio interaction. Drop me a line if you think you'd like me to go after something. Then I mean, like, what should we investigate? Obviously, that ear is going to have me busy. He suggests 69 every week. It's a come and gone. I think it's already been that's already been a winner. 69 was a winner. Go figure, huh? Probably like a week or two before you showed up even, Sky. All right, if that's it, I'm going to go ahead and roll live this week. Constant companion theory. We were never alone. This is xenoanthropology. I am a former archaeologist and former museum educator. So I try, as crazy as some of this stuff sounds, I am trying to give it to you no BS. But that's why I'm not sugarcoating it either. And trying to like soften the blow, which maybe some of the other researchers are. I don't know, what am I looking up? I'm looking up roll20.net because that's where I do the Tridactyl roll. I still have to have we're going to have a holiday Roll20 game fundraiser for Tridactyls. And I mean me. Okay, I'm sure the telepathy theory tracks, and if it does, and it likely has something to do with that pineal gland complex for sure. Okay, here we go for this week's roll. 49. Skywatch signal right there. Booyah in America. And you wanted that 69, and now you got the 49. How do you like that? Sky, send me your address. That's 2 heads I have to make. Yes, so be patient. I will do my best to make your head tomorrow. I promise. Look at that, Sky. You didn't even have to give me an extra number this week. You just won anyway. I'm going to share this message if I can. What the heck? That's why we roll it live. I'm a dungeon master. The dice stick. Them's the rules. You can give it to someone else. How about that? Besides, when you get it, you can share it. You can share it to your followers. You can say, hey, this crazy thing I got. Well, that was fun. I think you deserve it. In actuality. Whoa. I just closed everything. Well, it's probably best. All right. Switching over to the big cam. Thanks again for everybody for watching. Live long and prosper. Can't wait to find out more. I'm going to keep working on that ear thing. I'm trying to label everything. It's super difficult. All right. Yeah. Again, send me the address. I'll see everybody during the week. We'll try to do another show and keep trying to make it better. I like my slides. All right.